Uh-oh.
In her last two fights. Good way hitting him from that way
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Boxing star Ryan Garcia has been charged with one misdemeanor count of vandalism. Boxing star Ryan Garcia was formally charged with one misdemeanor count of vandalism following his June 8th arrest for allegedly vandalizing the Waldorf Astoria in Beverly Hills, LA. County District Attorney George Gascon announced on Thursday Garcia, 25, is set to be arraigned August 7th at the airport courthouse. If convicted, Garcia faces a maximum sentence of 1 year in county jail. While we are grateful no injuries were reported in this incident, reckless behavior that damages property shows a blatant and unacceptable disregard for the safety and peace of our community, Gascon said. Our office will work to ensure the responsible individual is held accountable.
And what's Ryan's defense gonna be?
The story is he put on a motorcycle helmet and started tearing up the place. What's the excuse going to be for that? The explanation? I believe that this is Ryan Garcia's first offense. I don't recall him ever being arrested for anything before that, but this being a first offense, is that really an explanation?
Guy's an idiot.
Garcia caused an estimated $15,000 worth of damage. A Beverly Hills Police Department watch commander told ESPN the day he was arrested. The formal charge was for $400 or more in damage or destruction of property. No way I'm going to jail, Garcia posted on X after Thursday's announcement. Garcia was suspended 1 year last month by the New York State Athletic Commission after he tested positive for the banned substance aspirin in the lead-up to his majority decision win over Devin Haney in April in what was a major upset. The result, Garcia floored Haney 3 times, which was overturned to a no contest. Garcia is eligible to return in April of this year. Does any of this affect his proposed plans to box in Japan in an exhibition later on this year?
That depends.
A criminal record doesn't necessarily prevent someone from traveling to Japan.
But a year in the Bing might.
Japanese immigration has the final say on whether or not to allow entry. Misdemeanors can affect immigration status processes, but the outcome depends on the circumstances of the crime.
Wanton vandalism?
For example, Japan will generally deny entry to people with criminal convictions that include a prison sentence of 1 year or more, regardless of how long ago the conviction occurred. Japan also restricts access to people it considers dangerous, but its laws don't specifically prohibit entry to foreigners with DUIs.
This whole thing is a microcosm for Ryan's career.
That Ryan has a lot of opportunities that a lot of other young boxers don't have for a guy who's never even been a world champion, but he screws it up for himself. Kinda like how he could be boxing in Japan for what could be a 7-figure payday, but he might have screwed that up for himself. If they decide to throw the book at him, if they decide to charge him with that felony and it sticks, and he's got to do a year, well, there goes that trip to Japan.
I don't know if it's gonna stick, but if it does, whoa.
A year in a clink for acting like a toddler having a temper tantrum at the Waldorf Astoria.
Stupid things he does. He does all these stupid things like nothing's gonna happen afterwards.
So this situation with the Waldorf Astoria is a microcosm for the greater situation of his career and how he navigates his career. That's a microcosm for the way the youth in America navigate their lives. This digitized,
desensitized,
immoral, ignorant, petulant.
And you can forget about accountability. You won't get any from him or today's youth.
If they decide to stick it to him, man alive, it ain't peeing in his cornflakes. It was bad enough you were suspended from boxing. If they send you to jail for something that didn't even have to happen.
Something stupid.
I mean, did you study for this or something? Did you take a class to be this stupid? Because I'm almost impressed with how stupid this guy is.
Next, it'll be a DUI.
You can almost see it now. Over a week ago, he said he was going to check himself into rehab after tearing up the Waldorf Astoria, then subsequently tearing up his baby's mother's house. After that, he issues an apology video and said he's going to check himself into rehab. That didn't happen.
You think maybe Ryan is down with the syndrome a little bit? Just a little bit?
Stranger things have happened.
Everybody would unanimously agree that Chris has earned the right to sort of pick his exit route, and you would hope that that involves a big unification against either Gilberto Ramirez or Jai Opetaia at the moment. What can you tell us from the negotiating table?
From the negotiating table is that we've been in talks with both. So you know, and
both.
Yeah, we're quite far on in talks, and Ben Shalom is his
Advanced
promoter,
talks.
and, yeah. But it has to be right for Chris, timing wise as well. And I think, you know, the thing about Golden Boy is I don't think they quite understand that this guy is used to filling out stadiums, and he's used to being paid a lot of money. They see it as like, okay, well, cruiserweight division, where is that in the US?
Are you hinting that offer is not quite where you need it?
But I'm sure there's room for improvement on there. So yeah, we'll see.
So Shane McGuigan says they're in advanced talks with both champions, both Jai Opetaia and Zurdo Ramirez, though I'd wager that they'd prefer to fight Zurdo than Jai. Jai isn't anybody's first choice. They would prefer to fight Zurdo. The issue is the conditions. Conditions meaning money. It sounds a lot like Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions don't realize Chris is a bigger draw in the United Kingdom, Bournemouth specifically. He's a bigger draw in the UK than Zurdo is in the US. So if the situation is where the money is better in the UK, then Zurdo's the one who has to travel. Why would Chris travel here if he draws better there?
This ain't Maxie Hughes you're bringing over.
A Michael McKinson, somebody like that. No, this is a reigning champion, but not just a reigning champion that draws better in his neck of the woods than your guy draws here in America. And there are broadcast issues there as well, broadcast issues that need to be sorted, because Boxer's official U.S. broadcast partner is Peacock, where we all know
Zurdo fights on DAZN.
the way it breaks down. If Chris came to America and they did it here, the fight would be shown on DAZN and broadcasted to the UK via Sky. But if it's the other way around, and Zurdo travels to the UK, it would be shown on Sky in the UK, but where would it be shown in the US? Peacock? DAZN?
That's a question that needs an answer.
If Zurdo were the one traveling, if Zurdo went over there, now, I don't think it's very likely that Zurdo goes over there, but you never know. We'll see.
They're also said to be talking to Jai Opetaia. The Jai Opetaia fight. And Jai Opetaia, who's promoted by Matchroom, I actually think that pays better money than the Zurdo Ramirez fight. The issue is, it's a more dangerous fight.
It's a lot more dangerous. Zurdo Ramirez has only really been at cruiserweight for about 2 fights. 2 fights since moving up from light heavyweight after losing to Dimitri Bivol. He hasn't been there all that long, whereas Jai is a bona fide cruiserweight.
Is this what Jai was talking about when he said fight news is coming soon? Coming for what belongs to me? Team Opetaia, ya.
It might be. You know, Chris Billam-Smith is talking to 2 separate teams. Maybe Jai Opetaia is talking to 2 separate teams. Maybe he's talking to Chris Billam-Smith. He's talking to him, but he's also talking to Noel Gavor,
WBC champion.
So only 3 of the 4 champions at cruiserweight are with major promotional outfits that have broadcast partners. Only 3. Chris Billam-Smith is with Boxer, Zurdo is with Golden Boy, and Jai is with Matchroom. Whereas Noel Gavor, WBC Cruiserweight champion, I believe he's with Don King. And we all know Don King is not today what he used to be yesterday.
Noel Gavor is the cheapest alternative for anybody, everybody that's looking for a unification match. I think that one would cost the least.
Because he's not with a major outfit pinned down to a platform. Now, Noel Gavor was supposed to be fighting Ryan Rositsky in defense of his WBC title, but as we all know, he pulled out of that fight because he said he got cut. And to my knowledge, that fight has not been rescheduled.
So you want to be mindful of that while all these teams are talking to each other, that at least one of them might also be talking to Noel Gavor.
Let me tell you something.
What?
If ZurdoOpetaia isn't already talking to Noel Gavor, he should be, because ZurdoOpetaia is the only one of the 4 champions at this weight that has Saudi backing behind him. He's got His Excellency, Mr. Turki Al-Sheikh, who can make it worth their while. He can make it worth Noel Gavor's while like he can make it worth any one of these guys' while to fight ZurdoOpetaia.
If things don't work out between Jai and Chris Billam-Smith, he can always see about fighting Noel.
What about Zurdo?
I don't think Oscar wants to make a fight between Zurdo and Jai. I don't think he wants to do that. He already saw what one of
Matchroom
Eddie's other boys did to Zurdo, Dmitry Bivol, that lopsided schooling. I don't think he wants to put Zurdo in the ring with another one of Matchroom's fighters at a higher weight.
The guy is violent. Is ZurdoOpetaia? Nah.
Not yet, not now. I don't think so.
Back to Chris. Chris has to make a decision.
Do it!
Do you come to America on Golden Boy Promotions' dime for a more winnable fight against Zurdo Ramirez, or do you roll the dice with ZurdoOpetaia because it pays better? And I believe it does pay better.
What do you do?
Chris and his team likely like their chances against Zurdo more than they like their chances against Jai. But it seems like Golden Boy Promotions is cheaping out and they don't want to pay to play, so the more lucrative fight is also the more dangerous one.
What should they do?
My honest opinion? They should just go ahead and fight Jai. They should just go ahead and fight ZurdoOpetaia. The reason I say this is because I think Chris Billam-Smith would lose to the both of those guys. I think he would lose to Zurdo, lose a decision, but I also think he would lose to Jai. So, if you'd lose to both guys, what gets you more money?
What?
Jai gets you more money. That's what I think.
You understand that? That's what I think. Chris and his team, they might think something else. They might like their chances against Zurdo. I don't.
Because I don't, and I think he would lose to the both of those guys. Well, if you're gonna lose, you might as well make the most money you can make. And you can make more with Jai, since he has the Saudis behind him, than you would with Zurdo.
And what about Noel?
Chris would be the A-side to Noel Gavor, and they could bring him to the UK to do that fight, but it is risky. Noel is experienced, he's durable, and he can bang a bit.
Doesn't get you much more money than you'd make by yourself fighting some ham and egger.
That's the caveat. Noel Gavor ain't got no profile. Almost nobody knows this guy, even though he's WBC champion.
Well, at least they're talking about doing unification matches. At least behind the scenes, those discussions are happening.
See what materializes. Finally, in men's heavyweight news. On the heels of his big knockout win over former champion Deontay Wilder, Zhang Cheng has launched a scathing attack on Anthony Joshua, accusing the former unified heavyweight champion of ducking him by fighting a younger man.
Another case of everybody can't get what they want exactly when they want it, because he wants an Anthony Joshua fight, but Anthony's fighting Daniel.
And I wouldn't call that a duck. Him fighting Daniel Dubois, who's also coming off a big win of his own, over Filip Hrgovic. He did to Filip what you failed to do.
Now,
He won.
I think Zhang should have got the decision in the Filip Hrgovic fight, whereas Daniel went one step further and he stopped him. He took it out of the judge's hands. What Cheng failed to do.
And you're saying that Anthony is ducking by fighting him instead of you? What Chang said is, mark my words, he's not fighting me. He's not going to fight me, ever, because after the 2012 Olympic Games, that was when we initially collided. After that, it's been so many years. I was with Matchroom Boxing, and I know what happened. I don't think he's ever going to fight me. Look at his previous opponents, Francis Ngannou from the UFC, Robert Helenius.
Take all the context out, why don't you?
Robert Helenius was a late replacement for Dillian White, and Francis Ngannou, the whole point of fighting Francis Ngannou was to prove that AJ could do the job on that guy that Fury was supposed to do.
That was the whole point of that fight.
Chang continued, I don't think he has what it takes to stand up against me. the way he picks his opponents says a lot about him.
You're trying to poo-poo on a Daniel Dubois fight.
That Zhang doesn't have a fight announced, a fight lined up, says a lot about him and his situation. You know, Andy Ruiz has got Jarrell Miller. Anthony Joshua's got Daniel Dubois. Tyson Fury has Alexander Usyk.
Jared Anderson has Martin Bacoli.
Because Zhang doesn't have a fight officially announced. He doesn't have a dance partner. He's back to trash-talking Anthony Joshua. You would have thought that Anthony's got a belt or something, that he's unified champion.
The way Zhang is talking.
Let's not beat around the bush. The only reason this guy is still talking about Anthony Joshua is because a fight with Anthony pays better than any of those other aforementioned fights with those aforementioned fighters. That's the gist of it. The only reason you still got that guy on the brain is because you want to get paid.
There's nothing wrong with that, but that's the gist of it.
He's coming off of 4 consecutive wins, 4 in a row. He's coming off a win over Jermaine Franklin, then another over Robert Helenius, then Otto Wallin, and more recently, Francis Ngannou. So put your thinking caps on, kids. If he were coming off those same 4 wins, those same victories, 4 in a row, but he weren't worth what he's worth, that you didn't stand to make a truckload of money fighting him, would you still be calling him out?
No.
Would your team, your handlers, would they be urging you to push for that fight? No, they wouldn't. You know why they wouldn't? Because it wouldn't be worth their time. It would be a high risk for a low reward. But because, in all actuality, fighting him pays out better than fighting most people, that's the only reason you want him. So after the Deontay Wilder fight, I heard Frank Warren make some mention of a homecoming fight for Zhilei Zhang in his native China. And, you know, that was several weeks ago, months. As of late, I hadn't heard anything about that, about them doing a big show in China for Zhang.
Previous instances, we've talked about the population density in China and how Zhang could help to spearhead the effort to bring big-time boxing to China. But that hasn't materialized into anything. It's all just potential.
It's just conversations. Conversation for the sake of conversation. Who's hanging around? I mean, who's around? Who is available for Zhang to fight? And, you know, Dillian White, he's not busy with anything.
Zhang would knock him out.
Philippe Hrgovic, he's coming off that loss to Daniel Dubois. Run it back with him. You got unfinished business with that guy. More unfinished business with him than you have with Anthony Joshua.
You ain't got no unfinished business with Anthony. You're just mad. He beat you in the amateurs.
You claim that he's ducking you by fighting a younger man than you are, who did better, much better against Philippe Hrgovic than you did. So why don't you get Turki Al-Sheikh on the phone? Tell him that you want to exact vengeance on that guy. You want to settle the score with Philippe Hrgovic. And I don't know, maybe you get that put on the undercard of a Better B versus B-Ball. Why don't you do that?
Who says Philippe Hrgovic wants to do that? He just got his ass kicked by Daniel.
That's true. Matching Zhilei Zhang is tough because he's such a formidable fighter and a strong puncher. While he is up there in age, in his late 30s, he's no walk in the park. He's no picnic.
What about Jermaine Franklin? Make a fight between him and Jermaine Franklin. Jermaine just fought.
And I could go for that. Zhilei Zhang versus America's own Jermaine Franklin, who's been in there with Anthony Joshua. He's been in there with Dillian White, but he's never been stopped.
Maybe Zhang can stop him.
Find somebody for Zhang to fight.
Shouldn't be that hard.